Start
Started.
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Gina DePasquale.
Hi, I'm Emmanuel Brantley,
I'm Jordan Knapp.
I'm Brendan McInerney.
and we are going to be talking to you guys about Harley Davidson. So I'm going to be talking about the business environment of Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson basically sell their motorcycles by using their brand name. And an interesting fact I learned on a trip that we took to visit the Harley Davidson dealership is that they do not call the other name brands by their name. They call them metrics. So something interesting is about the experience is that they say 9 out of 10 of the metrics that come to the store parks on the either side of the store, not in the front, so they can not be really seen of what they're driving. Also, another interesting fact is that with Harleys, their age range differs. You have some young and some old. It's always a mix, always a happy medium. And it's also men and women, other than the other metrics, they usually focus on one gender or one area, age group or something. So then, also I was very interested about was that with the different types of people that goes in and buy Harleys, you usually think of Harleys and motorcycles as big tough guys or things of that nature with tattoos and all that good stuff. But there would be lawyers and business owners that also buy Harleys with no tattoos or anything like that.
So I'm going to talk about the company owners and their management and their financial history. So whenever Harley Davidson was first founded, it was owned by the founders Arthur and Walter Davidson and William Harley. And at the beginning of the company, they had a lot of great success because they built what they kind of refer to as like a muscle, a kind of tough guy motorcycle, and so they were able to sell that really well in the U.S. market. But then later, in around the 1950s, Honda entered the U.S. market and started selling motorcycles, and a few other Japanese companies, and they really targeted the Harley market, and so they really lost a lot of their market share and a lot of their profits. And so then in 1965, Harley actually had to go public, but they weren't able to raise enough capital, and so they were acquired by another company called AMF, and that was in 1965. And in 1965, they tried to make a few different changes, but they actually weren't very successful. They tried to add several different components that they weren't actually necessary. They added a lot of upper management that didn't do a whole lot. They added like a senior vice president of marketing, and so they wanted to get rid of that position later because it didn't add a lot of value to their motorcycles. And then in 1980, they had to sell again because they weren't doing well at all, and so they ended up being owned by just a couple of owned by a management group from the top management of Harley because they couldn't get enough people to buy or couldn't get someone to buy it. And the CEO at that time was Vaughn Beals, and he made a few changes to the management and the way that they ran their company, which were increase their sales and increase their revenue and made them do better. But then in 1989, they actually had to they had their IPO, and so they went public for the first time, and that was actually really successful. And Tierlink became their CEO, and what he did was he changed the way that they did everything again, and made them focus on just the quality of the motorcycle and making it better and marketing it better than the Japanese brands like Honda and other companies like that. And then Jeff Bluestein took over as the CEO later in 2005, and he, at the end of the case study, he was still the last CEO. And for the last 10 to 12 years, at the end of the case study, their sales and profit, or revenue and profit, increased every year. and it ended up they had a revenue of over $5 million at the end of 2004, and their net profit was just under $900,000. So they were continuing to grow. But then in 2005, they actually had to revise their sales estimate after a higher, better first quarter than they were expecting. But they revised their sales estimate to lower it, and so their stock actually declined by 17%, which caused a huge problem with the company because they decreased their sales projections by 10,000 units, and but they didn't change long term. But their stock still went down significantly, and it hurt the company.
So when Harley was first started, they were very, very successful, and they had 100% of the domestic market. But their biggest issue that they came across was, as Brendan mentioned, the new entrance to the market in the early 60s from foreign companies in Japan like Honda, Kawasaki, Yamaha, and mainly Honda focused on a smaller, faster, quieter, and a little less expensive bike. And by 1965, 1 out of every 2 bikes sold in the U.S. were Hondas. And they actually even went at Harley with their marketing by saying, "You meet the nicest people on a Honda," which we even found out at when we went to the Harley store, that all the workers there were very, very polite, and they told us that if you are ever found on the side of the road by a Harley driver, that they'll always stop and try to help you out the best they can. But by 1970, in the case, we found out that the Japanese actually held 75% of the market. So Harley had their struggles in about the 60s and 70s.
The way that they try to solve these problems were that they made more models that were more appealing to the non-motorcycle riders, like not so intimidating, like they quieted their motor. That's in the case it said that it sounds like a sewing machine, which we actually heard when we went to the Harley Davidson store. They fired up a brand new Harley right in the middle of the floor, and the way that they fixed their profit was that they followed Honda's making with their just-in-time system, and that consisted of them building on built to order rather than just the inventory. And the way that their market was going down was that they assumed that the baby boomers they're getting older, and that was their highest market buyers, and all the younger generations are going to more of the Japanese models. So Harley fixed this problem, and they made more models, and which were the V-Rod and the Sportsters, and those are more appealing to the younger generations. They're kind of like the Japanese models. And as we were talking to the sales representatives, they were saying, like, yes, younger people start off with the Japanese models because it's like basically like a toy car, like a toy motorcycle. But then once they get like used to it, they want to like advance and like to have something more flashy. They might have more money, and so then they can afford a Harley, and they could really show off their biking skills because they'll have the experience from the younger ones, and they would really increase their buying and buy more and more. The one guy that was there, he said that he owned 3, and the other one was on 2, and they're buying more soon. So yeah.
So basically, something else interesting I found out by going to the store is that they said that most riders buy Harley, well, one, because their name brand, and also to hear that engine, because they said the Harley engine is a special engine. So, and also the place that we went to is having their 40th anniversary also, which is a big deal, especially around this area in Ohio where you only got a couple times to ride in a year. So
also, when we asked how Harley riders can justify why they would buy a motorcycle when they can only ride it maybe 7, 8 months out of the year, he said that when you're growing up and you get your first car is a need, but when you want to get a Harley, it's a want. You want to hear that engine purr, and you want to ride a Harley.
Another way that they were actually also able to retake back their market share and dominate the motorcycle market now is that they make their bikes customizable for everyone. They were saying that there's no two bikes that are the same out there at all, because everyone, you'll get it with the stock and whatever is typical on it, but then you'll adjust it and you'll keep tinkering and making it your own just to make it unique, like the way that, everyone dresses differently or, presents themselves differently. They do the same thing with their motorcycles.
Hope you enjoyed our video and hope it beat the stereotypes of normal Harley Davidson drivers.
Go buy a Harley.